In tech marketing, there's a special kind of arrogance. You don't just launch a product, you declare war. You don't compete, you kill. The iPod killer, the iPhone killer, the Netflix killer, the Facebook killer. Billion-dollar companies, seasoned executives, the smartest engineers on Earth, all convinced they were building the future. Microsoft spent billions trying to build a third mobile ecosystem and wrote off most of it. Quibi raised $1.75 billion, launched as a Netflix killer, and collapsed in about 6 months. Nokia poured massive R&D and marketing into a device meant to destroy the Game Boy, and they all lost. Catastrophically, expensively, hilariously. These are the 20 products that swore they'd change everything and became punchlines instead. One of these didn't even survive 2 months. Let's count down the graveyard of corporate hubris. Number 20. RDIO, the Spotify killer that Spotify killed. Before Spotify dominated American streaming, there was RDIO. Launched in 2010 by Nicholas Zenstrom and Jonas Friis, the founders of Skype, RDIO was arguably the better service. Cleaner interface, better social features. Critics loved it. Music nerds swore by it. Tech journalists called it the Spotify killer before Spotify even launched in the US. The problem? RDIO arrived 2 years before Spotify crossed the Atlantic and couldn't capitalize. RDIO was beloved, but it never reached the scale Spotify did, and it ran out of runway. Spotify, meanwhile, hit 75 million active users by 2015. November 2015, RDIO filed for bankruptcy and sold key technology assets to Pandora for $75 million. Users got 2 weeks' notice before their playlists vanished forever. The lesson? In streaming, being first doesn't matter, being biggest does. RDIO built a beautiful house. Spotify built an empire. The failed promise, superior design and social features would make RDIO the streaming standard. The reality? Spotify's aggressive expansion strategy crushed the better product. First mover advantage means nothing without scale. Number 19. Google Wave, the email killer that drowned. May 2009, Google I/O. The audience watches a live demo that runs over an hour, an unusually long presentation even for Google. Google Wave promises to reinvent communication, real-time collaboration, threaded conversations, embedded media, the death of email as we knew it. Developers gave it a standing ovation. Tech journalists called it revolutionary. Google handed out 100,000 invites to select users. The hype was absolutely insane. Then, people actually used it. Wave was confusing. Nobody understood what it was for. Was it email, chat, document collaboration? The answer was yes, and that was the problem. Users didn't need one thing that did everything poorly. They needed separate tools that each did one thing well. August 2010, Google killed Wave after roughly 15 months. The technology lived on. Parts became Google Docs real-time collaboration, but Wave itself became a cautionary tale about building products for engineers instead of humans. The failed promise? Real-time collaborative communication would replace email. The reality? Complexity killed adoption. Users wanted simple tools, not Swiss Army knives. Google learned nothing and repeated this mistake with Google+. Number 18. HTC First, the Facebook phone, the social killer nobody wanted. April 2013, Facebook and HTC unveiled the HTC First, a phone built entirely around Facebook. Facebook Home replaced your home screen with a constant feed of status updates. Every notification was Facebook. Every interaction filtered through Zuckerberg's vision of social. The pitch: you love Facebook so much, why not make it your entire phone experience? The answer came fast, because nobody wanted that. Within weeks, AT&T slashed the price from $99 to 99 cents. Facebook Home adoption was dismal. The vast majority of Android users never touched it. The HTC First became one of the fastest price drops in smartphone history. The fundamental miscalculation was assuming people wanted more Facebook, not less. By 2013, users were already developing Facebook fatigue. A phone that made Facebook inescapable was a nightmare, not a feature. Facebook quietly discontinued Home in 2014. HTC never recovered from its string of failures. Today, the HTC First is a collector's curiosity, proof that even the world's largest social network couldn't make people want a Facebook phone. The failed promise? Deep Facebook integration would create a new category of social smartphone. The reality? People wanted to use Facebook on their phones, not have Facebook be their phones. There's a difference.
Number 17. Samsung Galaxy Gear Original, the Apple Watch killer that wasn't. September 2013, Samsung rushes the beat Apple to market with the Galaxy Gear smartwatch. The strategy? Launch first, iterate later. Get the smartwatch pioneer label before Cupertino could claim it. The Galaxy Gear was a disaster. Battery life, 1 day. Camera placement, on the wristband, pointing at your knuckles. Price, $299 for a device that only worked with specific Samsung phones. Reviews were brutal. The Verge gave it 5.7 out of 10 and called it a developer kit masquerading as a consumer product. Sales were disappointing. Estimates put early numbers well under 1 million units, far below expectations. Samsung released 6 more smartwatch models in the following 18 months, desperately searching for something that worked. Then, Apple Watch launched in 2015 and immediately dominated the category Samsung had pioneered. Apple captured smartwatch revenue and volume that dwarfed Samsung's entire wearable effort. Being first gave Samsung nothing. Being good gave Apple everything. The failed promise, first-mover advantage would establish Samsung as the smartwatch leader. The reality, rushing a half-baked product to market doesn't establish leadership. It establishes that you don't know what you're doing. Number 16. Amazon Fire Phone, the iPhone killer that became a shopping cart. July 2014. Amazon's first and only smartphone. Dynamic perspective created 3D effects by tracking your face. Firefly let you scan any object and, surprise, buy it from Amazon. Price, $199 on contract exclusively through AT&T. The Fire Phone died so fast it became legendary. Within weeks, Amazon slashed the price to 99 cents. The 3D interface gave users headaches. Firefly was transparent in its intent. Amazon built a phone designed to extract money from your pocket. No Google Play Store meant no apps anyone actually wanted. Reviews were brutal. The Verge called it a series of unfinished ideas. Sales were catastrophically low. Various estimates put total units sold in the tens of thousands at most, a rounding error in the smartphone market. April 2015, Amazon reportedly took a write-down of around $170 million and discontinued the Fire Phone immediately. Jeff Bezos called it a meaningful failure and pivoted to Alexa instead. The lesson Amazon refused to learn: people don't want phones designed to sell them things. They want phones that do things. The failed promise: Amazon's ecosystem integration would create a unique smartphone experience. The reality: building a phone around shopping was about as appealing as building a TV around commercials. Fire Phone was Amazon's hubris in physical form. If you're noticing a pattern, big companies thinking their brand alone could beat Apple, you're paying attention, but we're just getting started. Number 10 on this list survived about 7 weeks before the company literally gave the product away for $99. And number 12, that one didn't even last 2 months. The graveyard gets darker from here. Number 15. Essential Phone, the Android creator's iPhone killer. May 2017. Andy Rubin, the father of Android, launches Essential Phone. The pitch? A premium, pure Android experience built by the guy who invented the operating system. Titanium and ceramic body, edge-to-edge display, no bloatware, no carrier interference. The anti-iPhone for people who hated what smartphones had become. Essential reportedly raised around $330 million from investors, including Amazon and Tencent. The company was valued at over $1 billion before shipping a single device. Then reality hit. The camera was terrible. Sprint exclusivity limited distribution. Sales were extremely disappointing. Estimates put lifetime units in the low hundreds of thousands at most, a rounding error in the smartphone market. Then came the scandal. Reports surfaced that Rubin had left Google with a $90 million payout following sexual misconduct allegations. Media coverage turned hostile. Partners grew wary. February 2020, Essential shut down entirely 3 years after launch. The company teased a bizarre candy bar-shaped successor called Project Gem, but never found a path to market. Ironically, Essential pioneered the notch design that Apple adopted for iPhone X. The innovation lived on, the company didn't. The failed promise? Android's creator would build the definitive Android phone. The reality? Pedigree doesn't guarantee product-market fit. Even the inventor of Android couldn't beat the iPhone. Number 14. BlackBerry Storm, the iPhone killer that stormed nothing. November 2008, 1 year after the iPhone launched, BlackBerry fights back. The Storm is Research in Motion's first touchscreen device, their answer to Apple's revolutionary interface. Verizon, locked out of iPhone exclusivity with AT&T, pours marketing millions into positioning Storm as the iPhone killer. The Storm's signature feature was SurePress, a touchscreen that clicked like a button, physical feedback for touchscreen typing, innovative in theory, terrible in practice. The problems emerged immediately. The clickable screen was mushy and unreliable. The software was buggy. The phone crashed constantly. Typing was exhausting. Every keystroke required a physical press. BlackBerry employees reportedly referred to it internally by a less flattering name. Return rates were notoriously high. Verizon faced heavy support and replacement costs. The exact figures were never officially confirmed, but the Storm's reputation for quality issues was well documented in contemporary reviews. The Storm was the beginning of BlackBerry's end. They'd tried to copy Apple without understanding why Apple worked. The iPhone wasn't great because of the touchscreen, it was great because of iOS. BlackBerry's software was a decade behind, and no clicking screen could fix that. The failed promise. A clicking touchscreen would combine BlackBerry reliability with iPhone innovation. The reality? Rushing an unfinished product to market cost BlackBerry its reputation and eventually its entire mobile business. Number 13. Nokia N-Gage, the Game Boy killer that killed itself. October 2003, Nokia, the undisputed king of mobile phones, decides to conquer portable gaming. The N-Gage combines a phone with a Game Boy competitor, Bluetooth multiplayer, online gaming, MP3 playback, everything the Game Boy Advance couldn't do. The N-Gage cost $299, triple the Game Boy Advance price, but you got a phone and a gaming device in one. Who wouldn't want that? Almost everyone, as it turned out. The design was catastrophic. To make phone calls, you had to hold the N-Gage sideways against your head, earning it the nickname the Taco phone. To change game cartridges, you had to remove the battery. The buttons were designed for a phone, not gaming. The whole thing felt like a compromise between two things that shouldn't compromise. Early sales were abysmal. The Game Boy Advance outsold the N-Gage by staggering margins in those first weeks. Nokia initially announced impressive shipment numbers, but shipping to retailers isn't the same as selling to customers. Those units sat on shelves until retailers demanded rebates. Nokia sold a few million N-Gages total over 3 years, roughly half their projection. They discontinued it in 2005 and pretended it never happened. The failed promise, combining phone and gaming would create a category-killing hybrid. The reality? Convergence devices that do two things poorly beat devices that do one thing well? Never. The N-Gage did neither thing well. Number 12. Microsoft Kin, the social phone that society rejected. May 2010. Microsoft targets teenagers with Kin, a phone built around social media, Twitter, Facebook, MySpace integration, cloud backup, a colorful design meant to appeal to digital natives. Microsoft reportedly spent around $1 billion developing Kin after acquiring Danger Inc., makers of the T-Mobile Sidekick. The phones launched with Verizon as exclusive carrier. The Kin lasted about 48 days. The problems were fundamental. Kin wasn't quite a smartphone, it couldn't run apps, but it required a $30 per month unlimited data plan like a smartphone. A phone for teenagers that cost more per month than an iPhone? Brilliant. Sales were catastrophic. Estimates ranged from just hundreds to perhaps 10,000 units sold. Either way, a disaster. Verizon staff refused to promote them. Microsoft executives blamed Verizon. Verizon blamed Microsoft. Everyone blamed the product. June 30th, 2010. Microsoft killed Kin and reassigned the team to Windows Phone. Verizon shipped all unsold units back to Microsoft. The phones were eventually re-released as dumb feature phones stripped of social features, selling for $20. Kin wasn't just a failure, it was reportedly a billion-dollar lesson in not understanding your target market. The failed promise: social-first design would capture the teenage demographic.
The reality? A phone for teenagers shouldn't cost more than a phone for adults. Microsoft spent massively to learn something a focus group could have told them for free. We're in the double digits now, the products that were supposed to reshape entire industries. Number 10 is where HP tried to kill the iPad and ended up giving tablets away for $99. Number 7 is where Google tried to build their own Facebook. And number 2, that's where a company spent years and billions of dollars trying to be the third mobile ecosystem and failed so completely they bought Nokia for $7.2 billion just to write off the entire investment. The graveyard gets expensive from here.
Number 11. PlayStation Vita, the 3DS killer that Sony abandoned. December 2011, Sony launches the PlayStation Vita, the most powerful handheld gaming device ever created. OLED screen, dual analog sticks, near console quality graphics, everything the Nintendo 3DS wasn't. Sony positioned it as the serious gamer's handheld. The Vita launched at $249 for Wi-Fi only, $299 for 3G. Memory cards were proprietary Sony format, expensive and essential. The 3DS, meanwhile, had Pokémon and Mario and Zelda. Sony never solved the software problem. Major publishers treated Vita as an afterthought. First-party support dwindled after 2014. The promised PS4 remote play feature, playing console games on your handheld, never became compelling enough to justify the purchase. Lifetime Vita sales? Estimates range from 10 to 15 million units. The 3DS sold around 76 million. Nintendo won by a factor of 5 or more. Sony stopped manufacturing Vita in 2019 and exited portable gaming entirely. The most powerful handheld ever made lost to inferior hardware with better games. The failed promise? Superior technology would capture the portable gaming market. The reality? Hardware doesn't sell consoles. Games sell consoles. Sony never learned this lesson and paid for it twice, once with PSP against DS, once with Vita against 3DS. Number 10. HP Touchpad, the iPad killer that died in about 7 weeks. July 1st, 2011, HP launches the Touchpad, their bet on killing the iPad built on WebOS technology acquired from Palm for $1.2 billion. The Touchpad promised a superior multitasking experience with the Cards interface that iOS still doesn't match. Price? $499, exactly the same as the iPad. Reviews were mixed. Best Buy couldn't give them away. Reports indicated fewer than 25,000 units sold out of hundreds of thousands shipped. August 18, 2011, HP announced they were killing the touchpad and exiting mobile devices entirely. The product had survived about 7 weeks. Then came the fire sale. HP slashed prices to $99 for the 16GB model. The tablets that nobody wanted at $499 became the hottest tech deal of 2011 at $99. Stores sold out in hours. Online orders crashed servers. HP sold more touchpads during the fire sale weekend than in the previous 7 weeks combined. The irony was brutal. At $99, the touchpad was a beloved bargain. At $499, it was a punchline. HP proved there was demand for a cheap tablet, then abandoned the market entirely. HP took significant write-downs related to the Palm acquisition and WebOS strategy. The WebOS technology that reviewers called brilliant eventually sold to LG for smart TVs. The failed promise? HP's WebOS would challenge Apple's iOS dominance. The reality? Price matters more than technology. The touchpad wasn't a bad product, it was a badly priced product that HP killed before it could find its market. Number 9. Zune, the iPod killer that became a punchline. November 2006, Microsoft enters the music player market with Zune. Better screen than iPod, built-in FM radio, Wi-Fi for wireless sharing, the Zune social feature let you beam songs to nearby Zune users. Microsoft's strategy? Out-feature the iPod and win through superior functionality. The problems were immediate. The signature brown color became a meme. The interface was clunky. Wi-Fi sharing only worked between Zunes, and shared songs expired after 3 plays. The entire pitch was "Welcome to the social," as if 2 people standing close enough to beam music wirelessly was revolutionary social behavior.
Even in its best years, Zune sales were a fraction of iPod sales. While Microsoft moved a couple million units annually, Apple was selling tens of millions of iPods. The market share gap was enormous. Microsoft kept trying. Zune HD in 2009 added a touchscreen, but the iPhone had launched in 2007, making all dedicated music players obsolete. 2011, Microsoft killed Zune hardware. The Zune brand limped along as a music service until 2015, when it became Xbox Music. Xbox Music also failed and became Groove Music. Groove Music also failed and was discontinued in 2017. Today, Zune is shorthand for Microsoft's inability to compete with Apple in consumer electronics. The failed promise: superior features would dethrone the iPod. The reality: feature lists don't beat ecosystems. iTunes and iPod worked together seamlessly. Zune worked with other Zunes.
Number 8. Palm Pre, the iPhone killer that died of great ideas. June 2009, Palm, once the king of PDAs, launches its comeback device. The Palm Pre runs WebOS, an operating system so innovative that its features would take iOS and Android years to copy. Card-based multitasking, gesture navigation, unified messaging. WebOS was genuinely ahead of its time. Reviews were glowing. Palm hired former Apple executives. The hype was real. The execution wasn't. The Pre had build quality issues. The keyboard felt flimsy. The Oreo twist made the slider mechanism wobble. Sprint exclusivity limited reach. HP later bought Palm for $1.2 billion and released the Pre 2 and Pre 3, but by then, the iPhone 4 and Android had locked up the market. Palm sold the Pre to Sprint customers who were desperate for a non-iPhone smartphone, but Sprint was third in the carrier market, and not AT&T wasn't a compelling value proposition. August 2011, Google killed all WebOS hardware, including Pre, just weeks after launching the touchpad. Palm as a brand disappeared entirely. The tragedy of Palm: they built the better operating system and lost anyway. The failed promise: WebOS innovation would resurrect Palm and challenge iPhone. The reality: innovation without execution is just a good idea. WebOS was brilliant, the Pre was flawed. The market chose reliability over innovation. Number 7. Google+, the Facebook killer that Google killed. June 2011, Google launches its fourth attempt at social networking. Project Emerald Sea becomes Google+, a direct assault on Facebook. Circles let you organize contacts into groups. Hangouts enabled multi-person video chat years before Zoom. The interface was cleaner than Facebook's cluttered mess. Within 2 weeks, Google reported 10 million users signed up. By year-end, tens of millions of accounts existed. Tech press declared Facebook finally had competition. Except those accounts weren't really being used. Google+ racked up registrations, but time spent and engagement lagged far behind Facebook. Many accounts were created automatically through Gmail integration, not because users actually wanted to be there. Google+ was a ghost town decorated like a social network. Google's solution? Force everyone to use it. New Gmail accounts automatically created G+ profiles. YouTube comments required G+ integration. The heavy-handed approach backfired spectacularly. Users resented being forced onto a platform they'd rejected. In 2018, Google discovered API bugs that had exposed user data. Rather than admit the platform was already dying, Google used the security issue as justification. April 2019, Google shut down Google+ for consumers after 8 years. The Facebook killer died because you can't force people to be social. The failed promise: Google's reach would establish a Facebook alternative. The reality: you can't force people onto a social network. Google+ had features Facebook lacked, but Facebook had something Google+ couldn't copy: everyone's friends. Number 6. Google Stadia, the PlayStation killer that Google abandoned. March 2019, Google announces Stadia at the Game Developers Conference. Cloud gaming that works on any screen. No console required, just a controller and internet connection. 4K gaming streamed from Google servers to your phone, tablet, laptop, or TV. Google positions Stadia as the future of gaming, the death of expensive consoles and gaming PCs. November 2019, Stadia launches with confusing pricing. $129 for the Founders Edition included a controller and Chromecast Ultra. Then you paid full price for games. Then you could also pay $9.99 a month for Stadia Pro, which gave you slightly better streaming and some free games. The value proposition made no sense. Pay full price for games you can only play if you're online on a platform that might not exist in 2 years? September 2022, Google announced Stadia would shut down in January 2023. The platform lasted 3 years and 4 months. Google issued refunds for all hardware and game purchases, essentially admitting the whole thing was a mistake. Stadia's technology worked, the streaming was impressive, but Google never convinced anyone to trust them with their gaming library, and Google's history of killing products made that distrust well-founded. The failed promise: cloud streaming would eliminate the need for gaming hardware. The reality: gamers don't trust Google to maintain services. After killing Reader, Inbox, Wave, and countless others, why would anyone build a game library on Google's servers?
The top 5 is where the real money burned. We've got $1.75 billion raised and gone in 6 months, a $7.2 billion acquisition written off completely, and products that were supposed to redefine entire industries. Number 2 might be the most expensive mobile failure in tech history. Let's finish this. Number 5, Quibi, the Netflix killer that lasted 6 months. April 2020, Jeffrey Katzenberg, former Disney chairman, DreamWorks co-founder, launches Quibi. The pitch? High-quality content in quick bites under 10 minutes, designed for mobile viewing. $1.75 billion raised from every major Hollywood studio. Celebrities lined up: Steven Spielberg, Jennifer Lopez, Reese Witherspoon. Katzenberg was convinced people wanted premium content for their commutes, short episodes, phone-only viewing, a new category between TikTok and Netflix. Quibi launched during a global pandemic when nobody was commuting. But blaming COVID was an excuse. TikTok exploded during lockdown. People had more phone screen time than ever. The problem wasn't timing, it was that Quibi's content wasn't good enough to pay for when free alternatives existed. October 2020, Quibi announced shutdown after about 6 months, reportedly around 500,000 paying subscribers, against projections of 7 million in year 1. Roku later bought the content library. The reported price was far below what Quibi had raised. Katzenberg blamed the pandemic. The pandemic blamed Katzenberg right back. The failed promise: premium short-form content would create a new streaming category. The reality? Content doesn't become premium just because you pay celebrities to make it. Quibi spent Hollywood money on content nobody asked for. Number 4, BlackBerry Playbook, the iPad killer that forgot email. April 2011, BlackBerry launches the Playbook, a 7-inch tablet designed for business users. The enterprise crowd that loved BlackBerry phones would surely love a BlackBerry tablet, a smaller, more portable iPad for serious professionals. One problem? The Playbook launched without native email, calendar, or contacts applications. A BlackBerry product without email? To access email, you needed to tether the Playbook to a BlackBerry phone via Bluetooth. The tablet, marketed for business users, required carrying 2 devices to do basic business things. Critics were baffled. Users were furious. BlackBerry eventually added native email over a year after launch. By then, nobody cared. iPad had the tablet market locked up, and the Playbook was a punchline. BlackBerry sold roughly 500,000 Playbooks in 2011 against tens of millions of iPads. They eventually slashed prices to $199 trying to clear inventory. The Playbook represented everything wrong with BlackBerry's response to Apple: rush to market, fundamental features missing, and a complete misunderstanding of what users actually wanted. The failed promise: business focus would differentiate Playbook from consumer-oriented iPad. The reality? Launching a BlackBerry product without email is like launching a car without an engine. The Playbook was dead on arrival. Number 3, Google Glass, the smartphone killer that society killed. April 2012, Google announces Glass, augmented reality glasses that display information in your field of vision.
Take photos by winking, get directions hands-free, record video of everything you see. The future of wearable computing, available for $1,500 to early explorers. Tech journalists called it revolutionary. Google positioned glass as the beginning of the post-smartphone era. Then, glass users entered the real world. Glass holes became the term for glasswares who recorded everything without consent. Bars banned them, theaters banned them, bathrooms became potential surveillance zones. The social stigma was severe and immediate. Wearing glass in public was an invitation for mockery or confrontation. The technology wasn't ready either. 2-hour battery life, constant overheating, limited apps. But even perfect technology couldn't have overcome the fundamental creepiness of face computers that record constantly. January 2015, Google discontinued glass for consumers. The vision of everyone wearing AR glasses died. Google pivoted to enterprise uses, factory workers, surgeons, where the privacy concerns mattered less. 10 years later, Apple faces the same challenge with Vision Pro. Google Glass proved that technology adoption requires social acceptance, not just technical capability. The failed promise: augmented reality glasses would replace smartphones. The reality? Society wasn't ready for face computers. Privacy concerns, social stigma, and looking ridiculous in public killed the dream. Some futures need to wait for culture to catch up.
Number 2. Windows Phone, the iPhone killer that cost billions. October 2010, Microsoft launches Windows Phone 7, a radical departure from the aging Windows Mobile platform. Metro interface with beautiful live tiles, fluid animations, deep social integration. Critics praised the design as the freshest take on smartphone UI since the iPhone itself. Microsoft's plan? Become the third mobile ecosystem alongside iOS and Android. The app gap killed them. Developers ignored Windows Phone. No official Instagram until 2013. No official Snapchat ever. Late or inferior versions of every popular app. Users who switched found their favorite apps missing entirely. Microsoft doubled down. They partnered with Nokia. They poured billions into marketing. Windows Phone reached around 3.6% global market share in 2013, its peak. 2014, Microsoft bought Nokia's phone division for $7.2 billion. By 2016, Microsoft wrote off the entire acquisition. $7.2 billion became essentially worthless. Windows Phone was officially dead. The final Windows Phone shipped in 2017. Microsoft ended support in 2019. Years of effort, billions spent, and nothing to show for it except a reminder that you can't buy your way into an established platform war. Today, Microsoft makes iOS and Android apps instead of competing with them. Satya Nadella's Microsoft learned what Steve Ballmer's Microsoft couldn't accept. Sometimes you can't win, and it's better to stop losing. The failed promise: Microsoft's resources would establish a third mobile ecosystem. The reality: when iOS and Android own 97% of the market, fighting for the remaining 3% isn't a business strategy, it's a donation to Apple and Google's dominance. Number 1. All of them, the pattern we refuse to learn. Here's what every killer on this list had in common. They thought brand, features, or marketing could beat ecosystems. They were all wrong. The iPod wasn't just a music player. It was iTunes and the music store and podcast integration, and eventually the phone in your pocket. The iPhone isn't just hardware. It's the App Store and iCloud and AirDrop and the entire Apple ecosystem that makes switching painful. Every killer thought they could win a feature war, but Apple and Google and Netflix weren't fighting a feature war. They were building fortresses. Every new user made the fortress stronger. Every app developed for the platform added another brick to the wall. Microsoft learned this with Zune. They learned it again with Windows Phone. They spent billions learning it. Google learned it with Stadia. Sony learned it with Vita. Nokia learned it with N-Gage. Palm learned it with Pre. And yet new killers keep launching. New press releases keep declaring war on established platforms. New billions keep burning. Because there's always an executive who thinks this time will be different. This product has the feature that changes everything. This marketing campaign will convince users to switch. They're wrong. They're always wrong. And we're always here to watch them fail. 20 products that promised to kill the king and ended up in the graveyard instead.
Billions of dollars invested, thousands of engineers employed, marketing campaigns that cost more than some countries' GDP. The pattern is clear, even if the industry refuses to see it. You can't kill an ecosystem with a product, you can't beat a platform with a feature, and you definitely can't force users to adopt something they've already decided to ignore. The gravestone for every killer on this list should read the same epitaph: "Thought brand would beat network effects. Was wrong." If you bought any of these products, if you owned a Palm Pre or a touchpad at full price, you were part of corporate history. Expensive, failed, punchline history. Drop a comment telling me which killer you personally bought. I owned a Palm Pre. I loved it. It was better than the iPhone in almost every way. It died anyway, because better doesn't beat bigger. And the next time some company announces their new iPhone killer or Netflix killer or whatever killer, remember this list, remember the graveyard, and maybe wait for the fire sale. Want to see the other side? Watch 20 gadgets from 2005 that nobody remembers. Products that actually worked before they vanished. They didn't fail because they were bad. They failed because the world changed. Quick aside, if you're enjoying this tour through tech's graveyard, consider subscribing. It's free, and unlike the products in this video, your subscription won't be shut down in 48 days. Better yet, join as a member. Rookie level gets you early access and priority replies. Veteran level gets you everything plus members-only videos and the warm feeling of keeping this channel alive while everyone else chases viral trends. Thanks for watching.